Ohio State has hired their new running back coach, and he is Carlos Locklyn from Oregon, and this is my instant reaction. Ohio State has hired their running back coach, and he is not DeMarco Murray, he is not Stan Drayton, he is not Robert Gillespie, and he is not even Pepe Pearson, all names that were rumored at some point in time. He is, in fact, the running back coach from Oregon, where Dan Lanning himself is, Carlos Locklyn. Now, Carlos Locklyn has kind of a crazy story, all right? He grew up in Montgomery, Alabama. That's where he is originally from. And when he was in Montgomery, Alabama, he obviously played football, got himself to Chattanooga to play football there, primarily as a running back, but he also played both sides of the ball because starting his junior year, he played some cornerback as well while he was playing running back. So this is a guy with a lot of versatility who's willing to do anything for the team. You love to hear that. You love to read about that. Well, in 2009, when he was about 39 years old, he starts as being an offensive coordinator at a small high school in Tennessee. Works his way up to be offensive and defensive coordinator at another high school, being another offensive coordinator at another high school until 2016. And finally, in 2017, he reached out to Memphis, a G5 school, about trying to get into the football program. Now, the thing was, he was working nights as a prison security guard. And so sometimes after he got this job, and it wasn't even really a job, it was just volunteering. After he got this opportunity to volunteer in the Memphis weight room, he would show up with his bulletproof vest on, his boots, everything. I mean, he would have to go into the locker room and change, come out, perform what needed to be performed in the weight room that day as an assistant, and then he would get himself dressed back into his prison guard uniform, back into his bulletproof vest, his boots, and things like that, and he would go back to the prison to work some more. All of this he was doing while married with twin children. I mean, this man, he was grinding as much as he possibly could. Thankfully, he didn't have to do that for any longer than a year, because in 2018, he became an offensive analyst at Memphis, got himself a bit of an upgrade there, so that way he wasn't having to do the full-time job and the assistant work, that kind of stuff, and eventually he became the director of high school relations only a year later. This is a guy who was changing his job nearly every year from in fact, he was changing his job every year from 2017 to 2022. After being a director of high school relations at Memphis, he then became the director of high school relations at Florida State, where he was also regarded very highly, thought of very well, thought of so well that he eventually was able to put himself in for the job as the running back coach at Western Kentucky, a G5 school. After finally making it to the Power 5 in 2020, he goes to be a coach at a G5 school. 1 year at Western Kentucky, and Dan Lanning hires him in 2022 to be the running back coach for Oregon. Just absolutely spectacular, the rise that he was able to have and how much he was willing to just grind and get to the point that he needed to get to. Football Scoop did a wonderful article on just his entire grind and how he worked his way up. Now, it was back in 2022, I think, so they only reference up to the Florida State job in 2020. However, it is a must read if you want to learn more about Carlos Locklyn. Go check it out. I've linked it in the description. You can check it out there. But now he is the Ohio State running back coach after spending 2 years, 2022 and 2023 at Oregon, and spending time in spring practice in 2024 with Oregon. He is now joining the Ohio State staff as a running back coach in the middle of spring practice here. So we have to ask the question, is this a good hire? Is this a bad hire? Is this something we like? Is this something we don't like? Ultimately, at the end of the day, I'll give you my answer first. I think it's a good hire. I think it's a little bit underrated. I don't think everybody is aware of the story of Carlos Locklyn. I think once you familiarize yourself with the story, you realize that this isn't just a guy who loves football and is going to grind to get to the next level. This is a guy who has a dream, who has a passion, who has a goal in mind that he is trying to achieve, and he will do whatever he needs to do to get to that goal. He will grind however he has to grind. I mean, this guy, look at his Twitter. His Twitter name is literally Walk On Coach. I mean, he has so much of just this walk-on mentality. Put your boot, tie up your bootstraps and get ready to go, because at the end of the day, he just wants to coach ball. And when he came up as a security guard, as I already mentioned to you, he was willing to come up as a security guard, as a weight room assistant, make his way up in the program, just so that way he could finally get that running back coach job at Western Kentucky. Absolutely amazing, absolutely astounding. And one thing I love about this guy is he's coached every level. Right? He has coached down on the G5. He's been a weight room assistant down on the G5, and he's also had 2 years of experience up at the Power 4 level with Oregon. That's Power 5 back then, but Power 4 now level with Oregon. And not only did he have success at Oregon because he was able to keep a job there for 2 years, he has turned Bucky Irving into a top 5 running back, arguably a top 5 running back in the next NFL draft in 2024. So, I mean, at the end of the day, this is a guy that Football Scoop said USC, Miami, Tennessee, these other programs wanted him, and he was desired by them, but ultimately he chose Oregon. So this isn't some guy that Oregon just took a flyer chance on and said, "Oh, we need somebody in a pinch, we'll go with him." This is somebody that was being desired by SEC and Big Ten schools, and schools with money like Miami, who were obviously going to be willing to pay him pretty well. But one of the things I love about this the most, we stole one away from another Big Ten school, and not just some Big Ten school, not a Northwestern, not some other lower school, Rutgers or something like that. No, we stole them away from the team that people are saying will contend for the Big Ten title with Ohio State this year, in Oregon. Dan Lanning's team. Dan Lanning, one of the hottest young coaches in college football right now. His brand, his prestige, everything that he has going for him. Ryan Day goes into his staff and plucks this guy out, Carlos Locklyn, to be on his staff instead. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic that Ryan Day is willing to do that after somewhat getting embarrassed with Tony Alford. We know the story of what happened there, but not everybody does. And some people nationally look and say, wow, Ryan Day just lost his running back coach to Michigan. We know the story. We know about how that went down. But at the end of the day, Ryan Day is cementing himself as one of the premier head coaches at one of a top 2 premier college football program, either 1 or 2, right up there with Georgia, a top premier college football program. In addition to that, is he proven? Has he proven himself to be worth a job at Ohio State as a running back coach? Well, you tell me. Back-to-back years with a 1,000-yard rusher, Bucky Irving. Back-to-back years. Sophomore year, junior year. That's pretty good. In addition to that, nearly 800 yards rushing for Noah Whittingham and Jordan James. Noah Whittingham in 2022, Jordan James this last year. Jordan James and Bucky Irving both had 11 rushing touchdowns this past year. I mean, what Carlos Locklyn has been able to do with getting rotation pieces in and making sure that they are sharing the ball. And it's not just 2 deep. He was getting guys 3, 4 deep the ball and making sure that they had opportunities as well. A complaint that many of us had of Tony Alford is that he was willing to redshirt Dallin Hayden. Redshirt Dallin Hayden, the 3rd string running back this past year. Well, I guess 3rd string after Mayan had his injury issues and things like that. But at the end of the day, Dallin Hayden got redshirted, and this is something that it doesn't sound like Carlos Locklyn would do. It sounds like he wants to play his guys. He wants to get them experience. He actually wants to get them in the game as much as possible, which I think is fantastic. Never has he signed a top 100 recruit. This is a little bit concerning to me. He's never signed a top 100 recruit at any position, running back, safety, linebacker, whatever. Like he has never signed a top 100 recruit in 24/7's rankings. Now, do I have some concern about that? Yes. Do I think that sometimes recruiting will increase for somebody because of where they recruit at? Yes, I think Ohio State brings an amount of brand and prestige that other schools just aren't able to bring. One of Oregon's biggest recruiting issues is where they are locationally. They are not in the South. They are not in a state that produces a ton of NFL talent. And so it is more difficult for Locklyn to recruit and get the guys he wants there. And at the end of the day, he got some pretty good recruits too. He got a top 10 guy in Jordan James, and he was able to get Bucky Irving to transfer from Minnesota, where he actually played and did well. It wasn't like he was an afterthought and had never played, but he was actually able to get Bucky Irving to come to Oregon as well. Huge accomplishments for Carlos Locklyn, and shows that he does have some recruiting chops. Maybe we haven't seen all of them. Maybe that is a concern, but he does have some recruiting chops to be able to do that. And plus, he's recruited all regions. He's recruited in the North. He's recruited in the South. He's recruited out West. I mean, he's recruited all kinds of places to where he is able to go and get guys. Obviously, being from the South, he has a little bit better connection there. High school coach for years, so he has connections there as well. But specifically in the South, he has signed a number of guys, which is good news there. So at the end of the day, if Carlos Locklyn is a good hire, is he better than Tony Alford? Is Carlos Locklyn better for Ohio State than Tony Alford? I'll let you be the judge. Just let me paint the picture for you. Why was Tony Alford not in Ryan Day's good graces? Well, Dave Biddle from 24/7 makes it pretty clear he was lazy. He was lazy. Dave Biddle makes it clear and says that that's not a questionable thing, but he and Ryan Day, from his source, felt like Tony Alford was being lazy, not just on the recruiting trail, but also in the room with the guys. And that's something that Ryan Day just wasn't going to put up with. He didn't want that around. You tell me, the guy who puts on a bulletproof vest to come to be a weightlifting assistant for zero pay as a volunteer, is that guy lazy? No way. And Carlos Locklyn didn't just get a cushy job at Oregon and move on from there. He's grinding his face off even at Oregon, and you know that with an opportunity to go to the Ohio State University, he's only going to keep grinding his face off even more, trying to put together the best running back room in the nation. Secret is, he already has the best running back room in the nation, but he's going to try to continue to put together the best running back room in the nation every year and have his guys playing like that. Carlos Locklyn is anything but lazy. This is a guy you guarantee you bring in. Maybe he has some questions about recruiting, but you send him out on the trail. He's not going to be lazy. He's not going to give up. He is going to be somebody that goes into those living rooms, and he is going to share his passion and his drive with those kids. Locklyn took a transfer from Minnesota, like I said, Bucky Irving, and he is now arguably a top 5 college football running back in the NFL draft this year. Tony Alford, he took one recruit and made him into an NFL draft pick in 9 years at Ohio State. Simply unacceptable for Ohio State. Ohio State, a program that prides itself on the history of our running backs, and we have had little history of our running backs being made that Tony Alford was able to put together through his recruiting. And finally, Alford has done one thing better, recruiting. But here would be my argument, that it was because of Ohio State. It wasn't because Ohio State had Tony Alford, that Ohio State was getting guys like Trevion Henderson, that Ohio State was getting other. No, it was because he was at Ohio State, which tons of people will tell us, just put the guy in there. They'll recruit. They want to discount Ryan Day, how good he is, because Ohio State just magically wins games, whether they have a good coach or not. At the end of the day, it takes good coaching. It takes good recruiting. And I do think that Carlos Locklyn will have just as much, if not more, recruiting success at Ohio State than Tony Alford did. You tell me, is Carlos Locklyn a better running back coach for Ohio State? Yes, no, maybe, undecided. Time will tell. What are your thoughts? Tell me in the comment section. I'll be in there letting you know what I think as well. Would love to hear what you all think. Carlos Locklyn, the new running back coach for the Ohio State University.